Welcome to Inside the 18, live from United Soccer Coaches Convention in Baltimore, Maryland. I almost said Maryland, Baltimore. That's how long today's day's been.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. We're still here at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. Day 2? Is it day 2?
Yeah.
Or is it only day 2?
Officially day 2, but for me it's my first day, so I'm
Okay.
feeling like it's day 1.
Okay, it's day 2, and I feel like it's day 17. So I'm Michael Magid. With me is Pro GK Academy's Omar Zini. And joining us, because we need somebody legit on the podcast with us at the same time, who just did an amazing 1v1 breakaway session downstairs just a few hours ago, Tracy Noonan from Dynasty Goalkeeping. Welcome, Tracy. This is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, because I read your resume and I was like, are you sure she wants to do the podcast? Like, there's a lot going on there. First off, guys, before we get into today's topic, I just want to remind everybody, thank you for the rating, reviewing, and subscribing that you guys have been doing. It's absolutely phenomenal. 255 reviews, domestic and worldwide. Although by the time you listen to this, it might be 372 from all the people here at United Soccer Coaches Convention who are listening to us as they're walking down the stairs going, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open my phone right now and I'm going to review a goalkeeping podcast, because 5 stars, guys. That's all you got to do. Again, make sure you leave your Instagram or Twitter handle in the body so we can send you your prize, because a lot of you leave your Apple Podcast sign-in ID. Like I've been saying, I have no idea who that is, so we can't find you. So Twitter or Instagram is preferable. That's how people find us. Make sure the more reviews we get, the more goalkeepers we reach, the more stories we can share and learn from one another. And we're going to share one of those reviews right now, because I am narcissistic and I want to feel good about myself. So this one goes, good job, 5 stars, exclamation point. That's pretty self-explanatory right there. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty excited with that one already. It goes, work with a local youth club in Midwest, and your podcast provides tips that all ages and ability levels can use. Keep up the great work, exclamation point. Well, thank you, at Sean45. See, that's how you do it. At Sean45, thanks for the shout-out. Appreciate it. Honestly, Tracy, you've had a long day. We're just going to get right into this. So today's topic is decision-making in the breakaway, and we're also going to talk a little bit about Dynasty goalkeeping and what you guys do and why it's a little bit of a unique goalkeeping camp concept out here, an academy concept. So first off, a lot of our listeners, sometimes their parents, they might not be as familiar with the goalkeeping vernacular that us goalkeeping nerds are. So I want to kind of break it down to them. What is a breakaway scenario, from your words?
For breakaway, for me, is a scenario where the attacker has gotten in behind your defense and it's a 1v1 with the goalkeeper.
Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. I mean,
we're hoping for a long answer there, but we'll work with it.
No. She's like, I don't know what else you want from me. She's like, that's pretty cut and dry. That's how it happens. Okay, so now a lot of times with a breakaway scenario, it's not just a 1v1. I mean, we talk about a traditional 1v1, but a lot of times you see in training scenarios with especially younger goalkeeper coaches, it's an artificial 1v1 where they have a kid roll a ball out to another player and they start dribbling 1v1 at the goalkeeper, which is what we're trying to prevent. So how does a real breakaway scenario differ from that?
In a game environment?
Exactly.
I mean, there's millions of different ways that it can occur. I mean, it's, in a game environment, it's coming from a through ball that gets touched through in between your defenders and crossing into the 18. Sometimes it's a forward that's just, beaten a defender and gotten around him on the dribble. Those would be, to me, some of the most common environments. But then even inside the 18, you're going to get a simple, slight touch by a defender that can turn into a breakaway. That's not necessarily a traditional long dribble, like you're saying in training. The long dribble very, very
that literally
happens.
Never happens. And I was like, what is this? Is the MLS shootout from 1997? That's literally like that. That's the only time I can remember this happening.
Correct.
Or like an NHL like penalty like shootouts type of a situation. And yet I see it all the time. So even in a straight number situation, you can develop that breakaway kind of that 1v1 is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the different types of breakaways that can occur then in regards to that, because if this long one done scenario, you said obviously there's a lot of different occurrences that can take place. So let's break down maybe like some of the examples that you gave today during your session.
Right. So the way that we like to kind of discuss it and break it down is there's the free ball, like winning the free ball. So the long through ball that's breaking into the 18, coming central, more towards the goalkeeper, funneling inside versus away from the goal. It can be a long dribble touch, the striker just takes one touch a little bit too far off their foot, and now the ball is exposed. It's open, it's free. And that's the ball that we as a goalkeeper can either slide to win. If the attacker is close, that's a safer option. If it's a long enough touch, maybe it's just, positioning and scooping it, at the edge of our 18, or sometimes it's even winning it with our feet outside at the edge of the 18, breaking up the play, killing the attack. I know it's not your traditional breakaway slide, but it is still winning the free ball and killing the attack.
But I love what you just brought up about that, because Omar and I, we've actually discussed that, is that, a lot of times we focus on, from a breakaway, we focus on a stock shape, and then it's a 1v1 type of thing. When sometimes, we were just at that session that Tim Dittmer did where he was talking about
right.
defending the different areas. Well, that outside area is still part of the goalkeeper's responsibility.
Right.
And if that breakaway does that quote-unquote free ball, and I love the fact that you did the quotes with the free ball, because are they ever really a free ball? They're never. There's never really such a thing as like a 50-50. It's always like some way a little bit more of an advantage to the striker in that situation. But to clear that with the feet, and nowadays with the goalkeepers being, let's just say, a little bit more ambitious, in those areas, that is our responsibility, especially if you're playing a higher type of line. So
yeah, they're being encouraged to do that, and I think, I don't know, when I was younger, I felt like I was a really good shot stopper.
Right.
So I felt that there were times where, yes, I could probably close down the angle a little bit more because the striker had their head down, but I felt like my goalkeeper coach always said, look, I want you to play the percentages. If you're a better shot stopper and you feel like keeping that distance away from the striker coming through the angle, leave that space open, so now you have the window of opportunity to have that reaction time to make that save. And I think from what I've seen, and we can get into the block shapes and all that stuff, I just feel like coaches.
Careful! Don't get into the block. I don't know if we can. I don't know if we have enough time. I don't know if we have enough time on the podcast for that episode.
Yeah, but no, I see a lot of players, and coaches too, they don't understand the context of when the block shape is supposed to be used or when that extended block shape is supposed to be used. So a lot of these goalkeepers are getting into a good spot and then defaulting, and now they're erasing everything, that all the good work you would have done by getting yourself into the proper angle. So I think it just depends on, I'm going to ask you, for you, do you feel like, actually I'm going to answer my own question, but when you train goalkeepers, do you feel like on 1v1 situations, each one of them, you give them the basic guideline, but then at the same time, the personal coaching of like, hey, I understand you're better at shot stopping, or I understand you're quicker off your line to smother that ball, play your percentages. How do you kind of communicate that to each goalkeeper individually based on their attributes?
Yeah, there's definitely differences within each goalkeeper and utilizing their strengths to their advantage. Like you said, goalkeepers that are super fast, may have a better advantage of being that more aggressive goalkeeper to win more balls outright. There may be other goalkeepers that's not quite in their personality and their style, and they might be a better shot stopper. So, they may be a little bit more comfortable in there. I think I'm still, as a coach, going to encourage them to test their range.
Yeah.
But ultimately, come game day, they've got to play where they're comfortable.
Absolutely.
But in training, I would like to kind of stretch them and get them to experiment outside their range.
Yeah.
And for the goalkeeper that's super aggressive, it might be the reverse. It might be, let's experiment with a little bit of where you might want to position yourself to give yourself more reaction time in some of these environments. So it's always just giving them environments to stretch them, and then come game day, let's settle into where we're comfortable.
Yeah, I think that's
confident.
Exactly. I think that's the beauty too of when you spend a lot of time with your goalkeepers. Obviously, you build a rapport, you build trust, and I think that trust, it's nurtured over time. And as a coach and as a goalkeeper, you're open to that criticism, and you're open to that understanding of, hey, when a coach is telling me to maybe take it easy and stop coming out so much, give myself a chance to react, they're way more open to that. Not criticism, but like that feedback. And now it's more of a conversation. We talk about collaborating with the goalkeeper coach versus like, I'm telling you to do this, and now they're thinking from your perspective versus us, like them having an input. And now it's like, oh, Tracy and I we're discussing this, and I think based off of how I feel, I'm going to do it that way too. Versus like, she's telling me to do this, I'm just going to do it just to appease her, and you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah.
Plus you want, I love that trial and error thing, because you want the goalkeeper in the game to be able to trust their own instincts, as opposed to just like default into like, this is what my goalkeeper coach told me I'm supposed to do. Yeah. And therefore I'm going to do it. But like, maybe that wasn't really the best option at that situation. And I've seen so many goalkeepers who have literally don't know how to go into a smother because they've been told to hold line, or they've been told to make themselves big. My issue with the block, and we can get into it, because I'm not as I'm not as anti-block as you, but
another. I mean, I didn't get into it today, but there is a time and a place for it. There for sure is a time and a place for it.
And it's an emergency save, in my opinion.
To me, it's a ball that's cut back. I mean, the player gets end line and they're cutting it back across the 6, and you've got a long scramble to recover, and you don't have the chance to necessarily get there. You're going to potentially sprawl. It might be a dive. It might be a block, a K-save. That's more the environment where I'm using that as like a last-ditch option.
Yeah, I'm not using it if a player's dribbling him at me at the near post, and then all of a sudden I'm just dropping knee, to cover that space.
Because or on like the through ball that I'm actively closing and then just sprawling and hoping to get hit. I mean, it can happen a little bit once I've closed them down, but it's a little bit different than potentially what I'm seeing being coached. And it may be kids that are interpreting what the coach is telling them incorrectly and not using it, but I'm definitely seeing students that don't know where to use it and are not using the smother option, and that to me is a tool that is highly valuable that is not being coached as often anymore.
For sure.
I literally, Kara, the student that was with me today, when I first worked with her, she didn't even know what the smother was, and she's 15, 16 years old. She's playing Development Academy. She's a skilled goalkeeper, but she didn't know how to manage that.
That's amazing. She literally didn't know what a smother was.
No, she didn't know what the smother was. She didn't know the shape of the hands. So that's a tool that I don't think is being coached as often, and that's what I was a little bit trying to address today. Now, granted, it wasn't a technical session, so I didn't get into the technique of the smother save, but I wanted to, reiterate to coaches that that's a tool that's important to us, and the safety of it. Because the block save should not be used when you're going into a 50-50. You are asking to get creamed. You're putting your head at their kneecaps, and you're not giving your defender who's tracking an option, an escape route, or the forward.
I think one thing we
you are stretching your body, though. You're getting a nice little solid flexibility workout.
I don't know how they do it, to be honest.
But no, we talked to one thing we spoke to about Phil Wedden last year was he was saying that I said, younger goalkeepers, I feel they need to watch more games, and I think they need to watch a lot of stuff because they can watch their own film, and yes, but when they watch other goalkeepers, there's obviously a reason why they're at their level, and like the decision making that they have is it's the next level. But he said, yes, but I would be very aware that some goalkeepers are making emergency-type saves, and when they have emergency-type saves, the context isn't necessarily there. And no one's on TV, and the commentators aren't goalkeeping specific, so they're not saying, hey, De Gea went into that save because he had no other option.
Correct.
And so now you have kids who are getting into these sessions and like, well, De Gea's doing it, so why can't I do it? But it's like you need to understand the context, and I don't think, like you said, from a technical perspective, I think people are teaching the technique but without decision making, and I feel we all know that's the wrong way to go about it, but I don't know if I'm going ahead. I didn't read the full rundown, but for you,
do we really have to go for we can go anywhere we want in this goalkeeping world,
like for you, let's say you were I'm a first-time goalkeeper coach, or like I'm getting into the 1v1 scenarios. Hey, how would you break down the progressions, and how would you teach it? Is it like the technical first, once they get the technique down, then like tactical, or like how would you go about it?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. For me, definitely, especially on the younger goalkeepers and newer goalkeeper coaches, I am definitely stressing the technique first because they need to be safe. The kids need to be able to get into that and feel comfortable with their technique so that they're not going to get their head bashed, and have a strategy so they're not going in with their feet, they're not going in with their head high.
Mm-hmm.
So that, to me, it starts with the technique, and it starts really basic from the ground so they build their confidence and work up there with the complexity of adding some speed, getting the ball rolling. So, we start simple. The ball is dead. I'm just working on the sliding technique and hand placement on the ball and some of those aspects. Then we start to layer in a player, jumping over them, getting comfortable with somebody near them, because that alone is going to free